Brilliant, guys. So we'll get kicked off. Hello, first of all, and welcome to our webinar today. Hope you're all having a nice day and week, and thank you very much for joining us. This is the second digital transformation webinar we put together, which provides our insight and guidance on the current trends and also the year ahead. I hope you find it useful today. I know some people on the call and got some new faces as well. The session today will last around about 45 minutes to an hour, and we should have enough time for questions at the end. If you do have any questions throughout, please feel free to add them to the chat panel. Also, if you want to leave your question to the end and unmute yourself, then please feel free. We really try and make these sessions as collaborative as possible. So, we're here to provide any guidance you're looking for, and delighted to answer any questions, but either on the webinar or feel free to connect with us offline. So just to introduce, first of all, a little bit about Zudu. We are an award-winning software development agency based in London and Dundee. And we effectively create digital experiences. We develop successful products, and we throw our heart and souls into the products that we develop. And there's nothing better for us than developing a great product at the end of the day and seeing our products succeed in the digital world. And we also provide digital transformation consultancy. So that's where we're looking to map out digital transformation for organizations, and obviously that's been quite a hot topic in recent times with the pandemic. So I'm James Buchan. I founded the company back in 2014, and managing director of the company, and I've been very lucky to work with a fantastic team over the last few years and build a really great company with a great energy, and everyone's fully behind with everything that we do as a business. So yeah, that makes me proud, and we're really motivated behind everything we do as a business. We've won some awards for what we've done. We regularly get listed as a top development agency in the UK, and also recently won an Enterprise Award for the best web and app development company in Scotland. So just to outline, first of all, a little bit about what we do before we crack on to the main content. We work across, the primary aspect of what we do is development. And usually that comes in the form of either a mobile app or a web app. And we also do elements of websites as well. And typically that's with both national and international organizations. So most of our business is based in the UK market, but we also have business over in the US, China, places like Africa, and Europe as well. And we work with companies over a whole wide range of different industries. Every project for us is completely unique. We don't build off any proprietary software. And that's really what gets us going in the morning as well. We love working on new concepts. We love being at the forefront of digital innovation. And quite often we're at the coalface as well of these trends coming out of the development market, because we see, as software developers, we see the demand coming in from clients and inquiries for certain things that come out, certain trends happening around the world. And it's quite interesting as well for us to see that evolve into the sort of mainstream development piece, as well as people and businesses have great ideas for new concepts that they're going to do. We work with both public and private organisations who work with the likes of the NHS and the government, but we also work quite more extensively, I guess, with private businesses. So that's people and businesses who are looking to either optimise their workforce or create new concepts all the way from the ground level up to developing a kind of phase one product. Some of our recent projects include stuff like GPS-enabled functionality. We've also worked on kind of secure in-app chat functions and NFC-triggered events as well in apps. That's a relatively new technology in recent years, and also virtual piggy banks and escrow payments. So again, that's kind of fintech related, and that's again an evolution that's come about in recent years with the ability to sit on top of the banking system, and also cross-platform web app dashboards and lots more. This is just a few kind of images from a select few images from some of the platforms that we've developed over the last 12 to 18 months. So just first of all, looking back at 2021, we're going to kind of highlight some key highlights, and then we'll delve into a bit more on the specific technologies that we see as being game changers in our world, and also game changers in the business world, I guess, as businesses look to adopt new digital transformation strategies. So first of all, just looking at this slide, businesses have gone under a significant amount of change over the past 12 to 18 months, really. And that's really been a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of businesses who were, bricks and mortar retail, for example, they were forced to go digital. A lot of businesses who were, previously, working, face to face, coming into the office every day, they needed to go remote, and all that has really accelerated the adoption of digital technologies that were here, all the time. Zoom was there, and video conferencing is there, and there was the ability to work from home. But that really forced that acceleration upon businesses, and also consumers were forced into, for example, shopping online. So that had a massive effect on the acceleration of digital across all of society. We also saw in the first half of 2021, Companies House welcomed an average of 80 new businesses every single hour. So that's up 32% year on year from the same time period in 2020. So that signals a rise in entrepreneurship. And that's also come from a lot of the government incentives. And you've seen that as the government have incentivized people to create new concepts. We've also seen it as a business as well, and some of the funding that's come through and helped innovators kind of create new digital concepts, and really helped by that funding. And the interesting thing there is that the number of people on furlough dropped by around about 60% in the first half of 2021, but a lot of people there returned to their old jobs, but it seems like a significant number there have decided to then start their own businesses. So people have really been invigorated to follow that lifelong ambition to then start their own business. And there's also been government money pumped into the economy to help businesses do that. I'm always a firm believer that today's businesses will employ tomorrow's people, and a lot of the government incentives have gone towards supporting that ethos. Quite interesting now, you've seen an increase in number of job vacancies. So that's risen by around about 90% since the start of the year. So that also suggests that perhaps people are not returning to their jobs, and then there's more people kind of creating their own concepts, trying to create their own businesses. And you also saw as an impact of COVID-19, businesses started to shift their priorities. So they were moving from the instant need to go digital to actually servicing and servicing consumers who are ever demanding in the digital world. So as people become more technically aware, people start demanding better digital services as standard. So that's quite interesting. And if you look at this report by McKinsey, you can see that a lot of companies were focusing on things like security and privacy. With the likes of GDPR coming into effect and more businesses than ever going digital, they've needed to secure that data, and also consumers are very much aware of their own rights when it comes down to data as well. Also user friendliness. So businesses have now, as things have started to plateau in terms of the adoption, more people have become digitally aware, and which is a great thing. So that's there to stay. But as people become more digitally aware, businesses need to then service clients in better ways, because they demand more digital services and also user friendliness there. So in terms of the user journey, making it more inclusive for all users, all those things come into effect now, and we've seen businesses now invest not only in getting digital, but also improving that digital capability now. Also, customer interactions, a very interesting point there is that people are edging towards more hybrid interactions. So even though things are going more digital, consumers are suggesting that they still want a human approach to when they're online. And things like AI can support that. We'll go through that in a few slides. But what you've seen there is people are demanding more of digital now. They've become more digitally aware. They're demanding more of digital. And as the pandemic eases, as people get more into back into the normal stream of life, what you're probably going to find is that the industries that were most vulnerable to the loss of digital consumers, may be those that saw the biggest gains in digital adoption during the pandemic. And so that suggests that a lot of these new technologies that people have taken on are that's ever evolving. So it's really an interesting time as people start to slip back into the normal way of living their lives and doing business and get out and about a bit more than the lockdown period. So consumers were obviously going digital, and to an extent it's never been seen before. And there was a quote by the VP of HubSpot saying that the winners will be those who can find the right balance between digital and human in business. So now consumers are demanding more, and there more and more people. 22% of consumers were happy to make online-only purchases, and 52% of consumers would rather deal directly with another person rather than just AI. So they're demanding more and more as time goes on. So, you know, you've seen things like online clothes shopping. In the UK, the fall of bricks and mortar. There's been some big giants in the UK that have shut down, and some giants that have moved completely digital as well, which has been interesting to see. And the UK is now the top market in Europe, saying that by next year, they think that online purchases for clothes, for example, will overtake offline purchases. So that really impacts kind of bricks and mortar retail. And I think there's a lot of learnings we can take from other markets as well. We do some work out in China, and you know, that's a market where we've seen both digital, online, and offline flourish together in terms of retail. So you know, it can really be done, and it's up to the retailers themselves to really innovate and create more of an engaging environment for consumers, at least in my view, to encourage people to come back into the town centres rather than having the kind of same shopping experience that they had previously. So what we've also seen is supply chain delays. You might have seen it in the news the last couple of days. People are fearing another lockdown, and really hope that doesn't come. And that's prompted consumers to spend more money earlier. So they're doing their Christmas shopping a bit earlier than before. And certainly with our e-commerce customers, we've found that feedback. Oh, sorry. So let's take a look at which industries saw the biggest technological shifts over the past 12 months. So first of all, we saw a change in online health services. So you can see some examples here, such as Nivea Skin Guide, Push Doctor, NHS COVID-19 app. You know, last year we actually spoke about China a little bit and looked at their situation as they had just gone through a lockdown period, and we could look at that and analyze that and see what technological innovations were coming out of off the back of the pandemic in China as they came out of lockdown again, which was quite interesting. And we've actually seen those trends replicate some of them replicate in the West as well. And so this has been you know, very interesting for us to see as software developers, and also in the products that we've seen, the demand that we've seen coming through as a company. So last year we talked about healthcare products that could have video consultations, for example, Jianxing Doctor in China, and that was an incredibly popular app during lockdown, and it had a massive boom, and that's continued as well. So people had adopted that method of interacting, and that has continued to some extent, although people are still going out and you know, having face-to-face interactions more than they were before during the lockdown. And we've seen that trend come over to the West as well. So, you know, apps like the NHS COVID-19 app. There was, you might have heard about the famous integration of Bluetooth low energy technology between iOS and Android. We were following that quite closely, which allowed the two different operating systems to be able to speak to each other to measure distance. So if you pass someone, that would alert you that you've been in the vicinity of someone who's potentially tested positive for COVID-19. You've also seen online doctor apps, and we've even built a few with video consultations. So it's taking that servicing completely remote and allowing people to give consultations remotely, and allowing healthcare consultants as well to give verdicts remotely as well, and that's also given some rise to the likes of AR and VR as well, where doctors can actually be somewhere and analyze something remotely and give their advice. So it's prevented them from having to travel to specific locations, and also reducing some of the strain on things like the NHS. We've also seen beauty apps and web apps for the likes of Nivea or L'Oreal or Skin Doctor, and they provide personalized experiences that are AI driven, giving beauty recommendations for their exact skin type and concerns. So again, that's something that's come off the back of people not being able to go out and go into stores where they might have seen a skin consultant, where they can do that on an app through an AI supported algorithm, and that allows them to get the right products for them. We've also seen the evolution of VR and AR. Again, the technology has been around for a long time. Now we're seeing it kind of slip into sort of mainstream apps, and people are using it for everyday purposes now. And so, yeah, last year we predicted the rise of virtual reality and augmented reality, and that's as people were sitting at home, not able to physically go to places. You've seen that in the likes of tourism and things. And last year we also highlighted some places in China, so they were taking those tourism experiences completely digital by offering VR and AR elements that allowed you to go inside virtually and look around and investigate when you couldn't be there in person. So there's just some examples here, such as IKEA Place. This allows you to place virtual versions of the furniture around your home using the camera's phone. And another similar app to that is Wayfair, and that's quite a common tool that people are using to see how furniture might look in their room. You've got things like Planner 5D, so that allows you to design and build your own home. So if you're thinking about home improvements or building your dreamed home, you can then go in and start sketching that out. And obviously you'll notice there's big supply chain issues and a lot of demand for people looking to enhance their own homes at the moment, sitting there looking at the same four walls for the last 12 months. So yeah, there's been certainly some interesting evolutions on that front. Also things like 3D look. This is, we actually saw demand a few years ago, and the technology wasn't quite there to do it in the best way. And now it's recently evolved into something that can be quite good and intuitive for users and quite realistic. So this is where you can try on sizes of clothes and before you buy, and you can hover over yourself and see what you'd look like with those clothes on. And again, those technologies, although they've been around for a while, they've only recently enhanced the level that they've become usable for consumers. And similar to that, there's things like Dress X. So this is that sort of virtual clothing concept where you can buy virtual clothing and apply it to yourself, but it's only to be worn in virtual videos or photos. They don't actually exist in the real world at all, and that kind of brings us into some interesting concepts and popular stuff at the moment, such as NFT. value and the intrinsic value of digital goods. So also the evolution of AI has come about quite heavily in recent years as well, and apps have become more and more powerful as a result of that. And also you've seen connectivity, so the 5G connectivity that allows apps to be much more intelligent as Wi-Fi speeds get more and more enhanced. They're talking about gigabit speeds in Dundee now, where our main base is, and that's allowing apps to become more intelligent, more powerful, smarter. This is just a couple of examples here. So the Galaxy Buds Pro, they learn to recognize your voice, and they'll actually turn down the volume when they detect you speaking, so you can have a conversation with someone. There's other things like Pinterest. They've had a very successful personal matching algorithm employed in their site, so that allows them to do. That's been a very successful progressive web app technology that they've developed there, and that's increased user engagement by over 60%. So they've enhanced their app off the back of using AI, and delivered customers a much better experience as a result of that. You've also seen things like targeted ads delivered by social media sites such as Facebook. The AI is learning about who interacts with what and what kind of stuff to show you at what point. So it's looking at your behavior, your shopping habits, and it's really targeting you. And you'll maybe have seen that yourself, unless you use blockers as you're shopping around or looking at things. Suddenly, there are other things that are promoted to you, and they're becoming more and more intelligent as time goes on. So that allows businesses to be smarter with the types of advertising they're doing, and have more targeted approaches as well for audiences. So yeah, just to talk about one specific case study I guess we've worked on recently, and I'll delve into a couple more high levels. So we were lucky enough to support at COP 26. So we worked with Wood PLC and ABC Media, and we built an AR a room that allowed you to see in certain scenarios what would happen via touchscreen technology. And that was a great little project that we did, and it allowed us to be involved with COP26 and really contribute towards the conversation there as well. So just a little sample of some of the interesting stuff that we've been up to. And also, just to talk about some other case studies, particularly on our side, we've seen increased demand from the likes of fintech areas. So I talked about escrow wallets previously. That's becoming more and more intelligent as time goes on. So, these services are sitting on top of banking services, and there's a lot of demand there for the banking system to change. It's seen as archaic and slow, and there's pressures in the likes of cryptocurrency and blockchain as well that are encouraging banks to really optimize and innovate. And fintech usually sits on top of those banking services effectively, and there's more innovative approaches such as open banking have been developed to really allow services to sit on top of the current banking system. So we've seen really interesting escrow services, for example, allowing people to get paid, moving money into a digital wallet and allowing people to get paid on time for certain services. and lots of interesting stuff like that. That's quite a normal thing in our world now, to think about escrow wallets, you know, within platforms, and that wasn't the case a few years ago. We've also seen education as well. You know, obviously education bodies, they had to adapt very, very quickly as well to new working practices. But the students have kept on studying, and they've had to adapt digitally. And you know, we've worked with the likes of Dundee Uni and Glasgow Caledonian University on their campaigns targeting Chinese students, looking to, even though these students are studying completely remotely, they might not be able to travel over, but you can still target, you know, with the digital innovations of the world today, you can still target students abroad and come up with innovative ways of being able to speak to and educate people abroad, and still offer these services, even though they're remote services. We've also seen the rise of some medical and health examples. Lots of consumers have now focused on their health kind of post lockdown, and we saw that common trend in places like China as well. And we've seen things like fitness services, marketplace platforms that we're developing, a lot of device connectivity stuff. So even building some apps that are looking to detect COVID-19, offer new ways of detecting COVID-19, and also things like interconnected inhaler devices that are allowing people to almost self-medicate to some extent, and deliver reporting to their healthcare professionals, and things like that. So it's been incredibly interesting for us to be in these sort of spaces and see innovations in this industry. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Mila. Mila's our marketing manager, and she's going to walk you through some digital marketing in 2022 trends. So I'll pass over to you, Mila.
Thank you, James, and thank you for the introduction. Hi, everybody. Lovely to be here this morning and join today's webinar. As James mentioned, I look after marketing at Zudu, and I joined the team about a year ago now, just over a year. It's been a really exciting opportunity. It's allowed me to work with loads of different companies and loads of different businesses across different sectors. And that really has the added advantage that I've kind of seen the full picture as well for lots of different industries and how they're operating at the moment and what I see being popular going forward. So we've just talked about some of the popular ways that you can enhance your business offering and perhaps even the app offering. But I do want to chat a bit more about how you can enhance your online profile for digital marketing and SEO for your website. And some of the following techniques I'll be sharing can be used for businesses universally, so not specific to any one sector. They can be adapted to your company. Will hopefully also help your company strategy as we move into 2022. So earlier this year, Google made some significant changes to their search algorithms. They introduced what's now called the Core Web Vitals, which, although it kind of delayed in launch due to the pandemic, it has now been rolled out worldwide. So it's something we can start planning for and making full use of. The name itself might make it sound a little bit scary, but mostly what it does is reinforce best practice guidelines that have been around for some time, but also introducing some new things. A lot of it will be for developers to really focus in on, but it's something for all business managers and every kind of aspect of a business to be aware of. Marketing, of course, overseeing that. So a lot of the Web Vitals will focus on ensuring that visitors are provided with the best possible and safest experience while they browse. And that kind of matches the behavior that we've seen earlier on, where customers are very aware of security. They're very aware of having safe data and browsing safe websites. So Google just want to reinforce that and rank some websites higher that are meeting all these benchmarks. It is worth noting, though, that even if your website is meeting Core Web Vitals, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to skyrocket to the top. And similarly, if you're not quite meeting it, you're not going to plummet in rankings. This will be quite a gradual thing. And there will be other factors, of course. Your site content is still a very big influencing factor. So don't just rely on meeting Core Web Vitals and ignoring everything else, it is important to bring the whole thing together. The key points from the Core Web Vitals update can mainly be grouped into 3 big sections. So these are load speed, mobile friendliness, and safety and security. So if we take each one in turn, load speed is for mobile and desktop speeds, so it does incorporate both. There's 3 almost subheadings within that. So if you're looking into the Core Web Vitals search tool on Webmaster Tools on Google, you'll see these popping up. So there's one called largest contentful paint, and this is the above the fold content. So it's when users immediately go into your website, the very first thing they see. And what Google is recommending is that if you display that first and then load the rest of the page once the user has scrolled to it, what's known as lazy loading. This will speed up the experience for the users. They'll be able to see the largest content kind of header area first and be able to interact with that. And then if they want to scroll down further, that's when that data should roll in. So that just makes the website load a bit faster on mobile devices as well. Best practice to do that. There's also the first input delay, which is linked to it. So this would be once your website is loading and a user wants to click on a button or wants to navigate to another page, that's the time delay that it takes for that action to actually happen. On some websites, they're optimized for desktop only. That experience can be quite slow on mobile. So it's just taking the experience from both and making sure that all users, regardless of device, can interact with your website as quickly as possible. And the last measure is the cumulative layout shift. So this is any kind of unexpected element shifts around the page just while it's still loading. So it's not your animations, but it's whether there's any kind of bugs in the code that will slow it down and perhaps move elements around, making them harder to click on. Anything like that can turn a customer away. So it is just something to bear in mind and look at the reports as well from Google and see how your website performs for each of those. Research has shown that if a user goes onto a site that takes too long to load, over 40% of users will click away if it takes more than 3 seconds. So it is important to keep up benchmarks for all devices, like I say. It is also something that a lot of people now, if they're browsing on the go, they maybe don't have the fastest internet on the go, they want something very quickly. So that's another aspect to think about. With 5G rollout, that could change slightly and you could have the higher speeds in more areas, but it is just something to note that on the go, people want information very, very quickly and Google wants to help them get that as quickly as possible. Another way I was going to mention, the Webmaster Tools, the tool itself is called the Page Speed Insights. It has recently had an overhaul to match the Core Web Vitals update. So it does go a little more in depth and also tells you on the page directly if you now pass or fail Core Web Vitals. I've used it myself a couple of times now, and I have noticed that some sites that can rate very highly for speed alone can still fail Core Web Vitals. So it is just important, again, just to consider the full picture and look at the rest of the metrics. The report will tell you what problems are present and how you can fix them. It can also recommend things like plugins, but we do still recommend chatting to a developer like ourselves because some of the plugins might still need quite a bit of technical bits at the end, just when you're installing them. And sometimes that can conflict with other aspects of your page and your site overall. So you don't want to break anything adding a plugin, you want to enhance. So it is just good to chat to a developer if you've got one in-house, or if you don't, certainly we do a lot of this type of consultancy with our own clients, so we'd be more than happy to help. Going into the next category is mobile friendliness. So this obviously links quite closely to what we've chatted about, page speed, but it also encompasses how content itself appears on mobile, especially things like mobile URLs. How easy is it to type out a URL is probably quite a good measure of whether or not it is or isn't mobile friendly. If you've got kind of long chains of subpages or loads of non-alphanumeric characters in the URL, that can make it less mobile friendly. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're generating new pages for your site. And lastly, there is the safety and security aspect to it. So a lot of modern websites will use things like HTTPS as standard, but if your website is one that doesn't, it is important to get that extra layer of protection. It does also reduce the chance of your site getting hacked and users' details being leaked. As we saw, again, users want to have their data be in a protected space. they want to know how their data is being shared and used. So having these extra layers of protection will help reinforce the messaging that your website is a secure site to be on. If you're at any point unsure how your website is looking for security, you can use things like Sucuri Site Checker. Sucuri is SUCURI. They're certainly one that I use amongst other tools, but they're quite good at helping pinpoint any issues, perhaps in the code itself. Hackers have become increasingly sneakier, and sometimes it's not evident from just looking at your website that there's a hack behind the scenes. So using tools like that is a really great way to weed out anything that may be hiding behind the scenes within the code itself. So those are the three main areas. And you're more likely than not probably already doing some of these. But with the Core Web Vitals update, it's just tightening all that and bringing everything together. So as I mentioned just on the slide there as well, page structure and content are going to continue being a really important factor. What you may have noticed recently in search is that alongside pulling up quotes of text, Google has now also started pulling up sections of pages that might be relevant to individual searches. So one way to do this and help Google pull your website content into search is to use what's known as a jump link. So you might have seen, if you're like me and you like Googling for recipes, you might have seen jump links being used in that kind of space. So what you'll often see is kind of at the very, very top, there's kind of your actionable buttons. So there'll be like a print or a jump to recipe, and that's how that jump link works. So it takes a section of your site that's perhaps, a section of the page that's perhaps further down, and it takes the user straight to that section. Really great thing to use if you're using blogs on your website as well, or if you've just generally got lots and lots of content on a page. If you introduce it at the start, use the jump link to that particular section, Google can then pick that up in search as well. So it does get more visitors coming to your site. So if you are wondering overall how your website is performing, there are 5 tips that I want to share about a good SEO check. And just to mention as well that as a thank you to everybody who's coming along to the webinar today, we are preparing website health checks for all of you. So we can measure some of these points and a couple of others. But just on this list here, kind of the main ones, we've always talked about speed. Talked about that a lot today. It is a very important factor, just something to look out for. And like I say, a lot of desktop sites might be optimized for use on desktop only and not mobile. So it's good to have that mobile first approach and check how both of those compare as well. Titles, so these are your page meta titles, so the headings that will come up in search results. It's quite common for people just to optimize the homepage and forget about other pages. So having quite a good structure for all of your page titles can also introduce keywords, help you rank a little bit higher up as well. And having having good descriptions that go along with the meta titles is also a really good thing to do. It gives a bit more information about the page, helps the users as well, just know if that particular page is going to be exactly relevant to their search, and can again introduce more keywords which will help you rank. On social, even just beyond how your profile looks on social media and how active it is really important to think about how your website links preview on social media. To make you aware, like some people might not know, you can actually change the image that displays and the text that displays on the link. So some of these link previews and image previews, if you update them for different sites, depending on how you want them to appear, that can help that customer interaction side. And social media will be one of the main ways that people interact with your brand. So it is quite important to make sure that you look your best and you look how you want your customers to see you on that particular platform. Moving on to links. So checking, do you have broken links on your site? Are there any dead end pages that link to nowhere? Or perhaps there's loose pages that have no links going to them. I've seen this quite easily done in e-commerce sites, or perhaps sites that have recently gone recent or multiple overhauls over the years. It's quite easy to kind of miss little bits like that. So it is good practice just to find any of these kind of sites, pages within your site, and tidy up any loose ends. With that in mind as well, thinking about links, you've probably heard link building is really, really important. There are a lot of sites that will offer you link building and you can pay for it. And that just gets your link on lots of different other pages. that can be seen as spam by Google, depending on what pages those links are getting posted on. So stuff like that can actually harm your site's reputation. So it's important to know where sites are bringing customers from and how dodgy a reputation that site might have. If there are sites that are posting out your link that are one of these kind of almost, well, just link bases, you can also tell Google to disassociate your site with that particular link. So if your reputation has been harmed by that kind of activity, you can help it. There's a tool to do that in Google Search Console. So if it's something that you're querying about, please do let me know, either in the comments, or you can email me directly and I'll walk you through how to fix that aspect of it. And last but certainly not least is the accessibility factor. So having a really well annotated website that can be read and understood by people using screen readers is great from a human perspective. But it also helps Google understand what your site and your images and your links and even videos might be about. And it does help on the kind of SEO side of things as well. In particular, if you're using video, if you're uploading to YouTube, you'll probably have noticed how you can now add sections and captions to your videos. Google can also pull this into search results now outside of YouTube. So it's a really great practice if you are using YouTube to annotate in that way. It'll make your brand stand out a little bit more in search results. So these are kind of my top tips and some of the trends that I see being particularly popular as we go into 2022. So like I say, if any queries, please pop them in the Q&A or in the chat below. We'll answer that shortly as part of the Q&A section. But yeah, anything, yeah, like I say, just pop in chat. And for now, I'll take back over to you, James.
Thanks, Mila. Brilliant. So I'll just wrap up with the key digital trends for 2022 in our eyes. So first of all, we'll see better internet access for everyone in cities, also in remote areas. And that affects a lot of apps and the capabilities of apps as well. Some of the apps that we've been building for, exploring the countryside, for example. Those apps will become more accessible in more remote places, and that will allow for more functions such as GPS activity and more integrated functionality as well in those apps across all areas of the UK and beyond. So even we're also seeing, as I mentioned earlier, a more personalized and tailored products and services online. So customers are looking for more of an improved online customer experience. And we've seen that through the statistics. People have come online. Now more people are more digitally aware than ever before. And that's really impacting the demand now for these services. People want more from digital and they demand more. We've also seen the rise of influencers over the past few years and on things like TikTok. And that we've seen that quite heavily impacted in China, where it's been about for several years. Influencers are almost integral to any marketing campaign in China. And they've also got that direct link between social and e-commerce. So people are live selling products and you can click to buy on social. That isn't as integrated in the West, and we are predicting on our side that will become more and more integrated as time goes on. We've already seen it in the likes of Instagram and Facebook allowing some element of shopping within their platforms. TikTok, for example, that's integrated with a marketplace, Taobao in China, which allows people to then make a direct purchase there to after they're promoting. So it's got that direct link from social to e-commerce. Also micro influencers, there's so many influencers. That's an up and coming generation thing. Where every young person wants to be an influencer. They have a lot of power as well over consumers. So Micro-influencing is where you build, you can go more niche with a lot more smaller, tighter knit networks, and you can then go after more targeted audiences through a smaller group of networking. As I said, real-time shopping on social media apps such as TikTok and Instagram, those features will come, and that connection will come there from direct promotion to e-commerce purchases. And and that's as social apps become increasingly popular and used by the TikTok, for example, used by younger generation. It's also dipping into older generations as well, and brands have even started to advertise more and more on platforms like TikTok, short video platforms. So you've also seen we've seen over the past few years as we build native apps and we build cross-platform apps. Native apps are really only now for a specific purpose, and most of the time you can, because you're designing once and porting across iOS and Android, it's much easier to then build, much more cost effective to build cross-platform apps rather than native. But we're also seeing desktop and mobile merging closer and closer together as well as time goes on, and it's partly to do with these technologies that are driving that in the background. You're also seeing with the Windows 11 update now, and this is only in beta at the moment, Android apps can be used on desktop. So you're almost evolving into that space where you've got mobile apps and desktop apps almost becoming one. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with app stores. Will app stores have as much prominence and authority in the future? Will that just become a web-based portal that you can download anything you want and become completely unrestricted from the app stores? You tend to take quite big fees from things like payment processing. But yeah, lots and lots to speak about, lots of interesting stuff. But I guess we'll have to leave it there today. I would welcome any questions anyone has. I see there's a couple of questions in the chat panel, so we'll pull them up in a minute. And me and Mila are around to answer any questions either now or offline. Please feel free to unmute yourself if you want, or pop your question into the chat panel. We'll get around to it. But yeah, I also wanted just to say thank you very much for coming along today, and I hope you found it useful as well. So we'll just crack on with a couple of questions. So yeah, so there's a question there. Currently exploring, so I'm based in Dundee and work mainly in the social enterprise sector. Currently exploring developing an app to nudge people into shopping local using gamification or incentives. I think that's a great concept. First of all, we've seen a push towards local. That came with the lockdown, and it wasn't just in the UK. We saw a lot of direct-to-consumer models come in on e-commerce. But we also saw that trend in China. People were more edging towards national products rather than international products during lockdown, and there was a big push towards that. And you've seen other e-commerce type platforms come about where it allows consumers to shop locally, and people are starting to demand more locally purchase as products. They believe in that local economy, certainly as it comes out of the lockdown period, where a lot of businesses have really suffered. But yeah, it sounds like a really interesting concept, and yeah, happy to have a chat about it at any point. And I'm sure that's something that would help any local community, not just in the Dundee area. So we've got another question there. How long can it take to implement features such as VR and AR into an app? So yeah, I guess developing VR and AR can be quite complex. Sometimes it's not as simple as just I guess it's sometimes quite hard for customers to fathom, okay, how long does it take to build an app? I always compare it to building a house. So it starts off, if you're building a house, you need some bricks, you need some materials, you need to decide, okay, how many rooms am I going to have? Am I going to have 2 bathrooms? Is it going to be a top end bathroom or a middle end bathroom? So you need to kind of pick and choose all these features, and then there's lots of different skills that come into that as well. So we have designers, front-end developers, back-end developers, QA testers, business analysts, solutions architects, project managers. These are all people coming into the project along the way. VR and AR is particularly difficult to provide a kind of idea of what the end looks like before you started. So on projects such as that, we typically do spend quite a lot of time on that designing concept stage, first of all, to really make sure that it's going to work. First of all, VR and AR needs to be done properly as well. There's a lot of occasions where you can end up doing it and it's not good enough really for consumers. And there's been a lot of money spent on apps like we showed earlier, such as IKEA in the past. So yeah, I guess and just one more person saying super useful, and they enjoyed the session, so thanks so much for that. Any other questions from anyone, or no?
I think we're just bang on 11 o'clock as well. So that was
11, brilliant, nailed it, brilliant. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed their time today, and hope you found it useful. As I said, all our details are on there on the final slide. Feel free to get in touch, connect with us on LinkedIn. There'll be more webinars to come as well, and we look forward to sharing more information. Brilliant. Hope you have a great day and a great week. All the best.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.